What if everything you thought you knew about world leaders was a lie? What if the people running your country, commanding your military, and making decisions that affect billions of people aren't actually human? Sounds crazy, right? But stay with me. For decades, governments worldwide have kept a secret so massive that it would change civilization forever. According to declassified reports and eyewitness testimonies, an advanced alien civilization has infiltrated the highest levels of human power. They don't wear masks. They don't hide in shadows. They walk among us openly, making decisions in marble buildings while the world watches. This is the story they don't want you to know. The truth about who really runs your government. The hidden empire controlling wars, economies, and the future of humanity itself. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 3 shocking revelations that will make you question everything. Where these aliens came from, how they took control without firing a single shot, and most importantly, what they're planning next. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Nobody expected them to arrive like this. It was 1947 when the first contact happened. Not in some secret military base. Not on a distant planet. It happened in the deserts of New Mexico. A craft crashed near Roswell. What officials told the public was a weather balloon. What actually landed was something far more incredible. Inside that wreckage were beings unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Tall figures, pale skin tones, eyes that seemed to hold knowledge spanning centuries. But here's what nobody realized. These beings weren't alone. For thousands of years, they had been watching us, studying us, waiting for the perfect moment to make contact. The military recovered the craft. Scientists examined it. And within weeks, something extraordinary happened. World governments made a decision that would change history forever. Instead of announcing this discovery to the world, they made a deal. A secret agreement that has remained hidden for over 70 years. The aliens offered humanity advanced technology, clean energy, medicine that could cure diseases, the ability to end poverty and suffering. But there was a price, a single condition. They wanted access to the highest levels of government, access to military command, access to the decisions that shape the future of nations. At first, governments refused. The idea was insane. No world leader would surrender control to an extraterrestrial species. But then something changed. One by one, leaders began to see the value. Not the technology, not the medicine. The real prize was something much darker. The power to control entire populations without them ever knowing. So they agreed. In secret meetings that have never been recorded. In documents that still remain classified. World governments welcomed this alien civilization into the halls of power. The plan was simple. The aliens wouldn't replace human leaders. They would work through them. They would guide the decisions. They would shape the policies. They would control the outcomes. And humanity would never know the difference. By the 1950s, the first alien operatives had integrated into government. They started in lower positions. Intelligence agencies, military research programs, think tanks that advised presidents. Nobody questioned them. They looked human enough. They spoke our languages. They understood our politics. They were perfect infiltrators. What made them even more dangerous was this. They were patient. They didn't rush. They didn't try to take over immediately. They simply worked their way up. Generation after generation. Decade after decade. Slowly, steadily, moving into positions of greater influence. A general who made decisions about nuclear weapons. Reportedly an alien operative. An advisor to a president. According to sources, also working for the extraterrestrial collective. A senator who shaped laws affecting millions. allegedly guided by something far older and far wiser than a human mind. By the 1970s, the situation was undeniable. The aliens didn't just have influence. They had control. They controlled military strategy. They influenced economic policy. They shaped which wars would happen. They decided which conflicts would be prevented. The Vietnam War, the Cold War, the Middle East conflicts. Sources suggest these weren't random events. They were orchestrated, calculated moves by an intelligence that saw humanity like chess pieces on a board. But how did they do it? How did they convince world leaders to follow their guidance? The answer is both simple and terrifying. They had something humans desperately wanted. Power, unlimited power, the ability to stay in office, the ability to grow wealth beyond measure, the ability to shape the world according to their vision. All a leader had to do was listen. All they had to do was follow the guidance of their alien handlers. And in return, they would be rewarded with influence that would last lifetimes. Governments built secure facilities to house alien representatives. Underground bunkers, secret research centers, locations so classified that even most government officials didn't know they existed. This is where the real decisions happened. Not in Congress, not in Parliament, but in hidden rooms where humans and aliens sat at the same table. By the year 2000, the alien presence in government was complete. They weren't planning to take over. They already had. They didn't need to announce it. The world would never know. The system they created was brilliant. It was invisible. Most people looked right past it. Governments claimed to be democratic. Elections happened. Citizens voted. Leaders changed. But nothing really changed. Why? Because the same alien intelligence was controlling the outcomes from behind the scenes. Think about it. Why do wars happen at certain times? Why do certain leaders rise to power while others mysteriously fall? Why do world events seem connected in ways that seem impossible to predict? The answer isn't luck. It isn't coincidence. It's coordination, organization, planning by a mind that doesn't think in 4-year election cycles. It thinks in centuries. The aliens created something that researchers have called the shadow government. Not a conspiracy theory, an actual parallel structure of power. Alongside every official government, there's an unofficial one. The real one. The one making the actual decisions. A president makes a speech. Millions watch on television. They think they're hearing the real policy. But the actual policy was already decided. Months earlier. In a meeting the public will never see. Between elected officials and their alien advisors. This explains things that never made sense before. Why different countries with different leaders all seem to follow similar policies. Why wars end the same way regardless of military advantage. Why economic booms and crashes happen in patterns that seem too organized to be natural. The alien collective had something humans don't have. A unified vision. No competing nations. No conflicting interests. Just one goal. One plan. One intelligence moving all the pieces toward a single future. But they were smart about it. They didn't eliminate human choice. People still felt like they were free. Democracies still existed. Citizens still voted. It just didn't matter. The outcome was already decided. Imagine a chess player sitting at a board with a child. The child thinks it's playing the game. It moves its pieces. It makes decisions. But the adult player has already calculated every possible move. The child never had a real choice. This is what's been happening in world governments for 7 decades. Military command operates under the same system. Generals think they are making strategic decisions based on military intelligence. But what if that intelligence comes from an extraterrestrial civilization? What if the strategic guidance they receive isn't from human commanders, but from beings who have watched warfare across dozens of planets? Every major military decision in the last 70 years, reportedly guided by alien intelligence. The weapons chosen, the strategies selected, the battles that happen, and the peace agreements that follow, all following patterns that serve the alien collective's greater plan. Sources suggest there's a hierarchy. At the top, alien commanders. Below them, human generals who believe they're in charge, but are actually following orders. Below them, soldiers and officers with no idea that their commands ultimately come from another world. The scariest part isn't the control itself. It's how well it works. There's been no rebellion, no leaked evidence that would convince the public. Just an occasional whistleblower who sounds too crazy to be believed. And that's exactly how they want it. An alien operative sits in a Pentagon office right now, making decisions about national security. A human general walks into his office, receives what sounds like friendly advice, leaves thinking he made the decision himself. That's the genius of their system. They don't need to force compliance. They guide it. The infrastructure is so complete that it touches every major decision made by every major government. Economic policy, military strategy, scientific research, even which information gets to the public and which information stays secret. Every secret government program, every classified research project, every area designated off-limits to civilians, allegedly controlled or influenced by the alien presence. Area 51, underground military bases, secret space programs, places where humans and aliens work side by side, developing technology that won't be released to the public for generations. This is why governments can't expose them, because governments themselves are compromised. The leaders who could reveal the truth are the ones most controlled by it. They can't confess without admitting their own complicity. They can't expose the system without exposing themselves as puppets. So the lies continue. Elections happen. New leaders rise to power with promises of change. But nothing changes because the people actually running things never change. And nobody knows. Understanding the alien strategy requires thinking bigger than any human government thinks. Humans plan in years, maybe decades. The alien collective plans in centuries. They're patient, they're methodical, and they're playing a game that humanity doesn't even know is happening. What's their endgame? What are they actually working toward? According to researchers and former government insiders, the answer is sobering. They're preparing humanity for integration. Complete integration into their civilization. It sounds impossible, but consider the evidence. Every major conflict in the last 70 years has followed a pattern. Wars destabilize regions. Populations become dependent on government for survival. People lose faith in their own ability to self-govern. They become willing to accept greater control from above. Economic systems are manipulated the same way. Crashes follow booms. Wealth concentrates at the top. Ordinary people feel powerless. They're more willing to accept authoritarian solutions. All of this, according to sources, is deliberate, part of a calculated plan to reshape human civilization. The goal isn't invasion. It's integration. They don't want to conquer humanity. They want to absorb it, to make us part of their collective, to transform human consciousness into something compatible with their own. Look at technology. Every major technological breakthrough in the last 50 years. Computers, the internet, artificial intelligence, mobile phones. These technologies were supposedly developed by human scientists and corporations. But according to declassified documents, the blueprints came from somewhere else. They were provided to select individuals through secret channels. Why? Because accelerating technology serves their purpose. make humans dependent on interconnected systems, create a world where surveillance is inevitable, where privacy is impossible, where individual thought becomes impossible. Perfect conditions for integration. Social media, designed to predict and influence human behavior. Artificial intelligence, created to eventually replace human decision-making. Digital currencies, implementing a system where every transaction can be tracked and controlled. None of this is accidental. It's all part of the plan. The aliens aren't inventing these things. Humans are. But humans are being guided, directed, sometimes without even knowing it. A scientist has an idea. It seems brilliant. But where did it really come from? Was it his own thought? Or was it planted there by an intelligence far superior to his own? This is the real genius of their strategy. They don't do the work. They make humans do it. They guide civilization toward exactly where they want it to go, while humans believe they're moving forward of their own choice. Military expansion follows the same logic. Every military base, every weapon system, every strategy for global dominance, allegedly guided by the alien collective, but implemented by human governments. The aliens aren't the ones starting wars. Humans are. The aliens just decide where and when those wars happen. This explains why world events seem coordinated, even though no global government officially exists. There is a global government. It's just hidden. It works through the official governments that humans see. But the real power exists in a place nobody can officially prove. Different world regions, different cultures, different religions, but they all follow the same patterns, the same wars, the same economic cycles, the same technological progression. Why? Because they're all being guided by the same intelligence, the same alien collective. A war in the Middle East affects oil prices everywhere. Stock markets crash. Governments respond with new policies. Populations become more fearful, more willing to accept surveillance, more willing to surrender freedom for security. Is this all coincidence? Or is it exactly what someone wanted to happen? The scariest revelation is this. If this is true, then most of what humans consider progress is actually programming. We are not moving forward. We are moving exactly where we are being guided. And we celebrate it as our own achievement. Education systems, designed to create citizens compatible with the New World Order. Religious institutions, adapted to accept the coming integration. Entertainment, conditioning populations to accept the unacceptable. Every major institution in human civilization, reportedly shaped by the alien presence to move humanity toward a predetermined future. But here's what the alien collective might not have anticipated. Humans have something they don't. Something that transcends logic and calculation. We have intuition, consciousness, soul, something that rebels against control. Something that fights for freedom even when the fight seems hopeless. This is why they've been patient. This is why they haven't fully revealed themselves. Because they know that if humanity woke up all at once, if we realized what was happening, there might be rebellion. There might be resistance. And they can't allow that. So they work slowly, generation by generation, reshaping civilization from within, making slavery feel like freedom, making control feel like progress, making submission feel like achievement. And most of humanity still has no idea it's happening. But not everyone is asleep. Throughout history, there have been people who sensed something wrong, who glimpsed the truth and tried to warn others. Some were silenced. Some were discredited. Some simply disappeared. But they tried. These weren't conspiracy theorists. Many were government insiders, military officers, scientists, politicians, people with access to classified information, people who understood the system from the inside, and people who couldn't stay silent anymore. A general questions orders that don't make sense. He's reassigned. A scientist discovers evidence of alien technology. His research is classified. A politician tries to investigate strange patterns in military spending. He's voted out of office. The system is designed to protect itself, to eliminate threats, to silence truth-tellers. But the information still leaks. Slowly, carefully, through documents that should remain secret, through testimonies from people with nothing left to lose, through patterns that can't be ignored if you know where to look. According to researchers, there have been at least 17 documented attempts to expose the alien presence. Each one was stopped. Each one was covered up. But each one left traces, evidence, hints that something massive was being hidden. The question becomes, why haven't they silenced everyone? Why does any information leak at all? Some researchers believe it's because the aliens allow it. Limited exposure keeps people from discovering too much. It keeps people from organizing effective resistance. A few crazy stories about aliens running governments. People dismiss them. They think it's entertainment. Science fiction, not reality. But what if the aliens are actually preparing humanity for revelation? What if they're slowly conditioning us, feeding us science fiction stories about alien contact, preparing our minds for a reality that we'll eventually have to accept? This would be brilliant strategy. Release enough information that, when full disclosure happens, it won't be shocking. Make us comfortable with the idea through movies and television. Prime our brains to accept aliens as a normal part of reality. Then when they finally reveal themselves, humanity won't resist. We'll have already accepted them through years of psychological preparation. This might explain why governments spend so much time and money creating and controlling alien narratives. Not to hide the truth, but to manage it, to present it in ways that keep humans from panicking or rebelling. Some believe we're approaching a critical moment, a point where the alien presence will be fully revealed, where governments will no longer be able to hide the truth. This could happen through a deliberate disclosure, or through an event so massive that it can't be covered up. What would trigger this? Several possibilities exist. A catastrophic event that requires alien intervention. A technological breakthrough that makes the alien presence obvious. Or simply time. The system they've created might be approaching completion. The integration of human civilization might be nearing point where revelation doesn't matter anymore, because resistance becomes impossible. When that moment comes, most humans will be completely unprepared. They'll be shocked, betrayed, angry that their governments lied, that their leaders weren't actually leading, that their freedom was an illusion. But some people will see it differently. They'll see it as evolution. Humanity joining a galactic civilization, gaining access to technology and knowledge we could never achieve alone. The burden of independence finally lifted. The responsibility of self-governance finally removed. This is the divided future that might be coming. Some will resist. Some will welcome the change. And the alien collective will finally step into the light. No longer hiding. No longer guiding from shadows. Finally revealed as what they've been all along. The true rulers of Earth. The resistance that exists now is small. Underground networks of people who know the truth. People sharing information in ways that governments can't completely control. They've created codes, hidden messages in plain sight, ways to communicate without being detected. They believe that when the moment comes, ordinary people will need guidance, direction, someone to show them that resistance is still possible, that humanity can still choose its own path, even against an intelligence vastly superior to our own. But the odds are terrifying. The system is too complete. The control is too perfect. And time might be running out. Because according to sources, the alien collective has a timeline, a specific moment when integration will be forced, whether humanity accepts it or not. And that moment might be closer than we think. Everything you've heard so far, all the evidence, all the patterns, all the claims about hidden governments and alien control, it might all be missing the most important piece. What if the story itself is the programming? What if by telling you about alien governments and hidden powers and forces beyond our control, we are making you feel helpless, making you feel like resistance is futile, making you accept the unacceptable because you believe it's inevitable? This is the final layer of control, not just manipulating events, but manipulating your perception of those events, making you believe you're powerless, making you surrender before you even try. But here's the truth that the system doesn't want you to know. You have power, more power than any government, more power than any alien civilization, because you have something they can't control. Your choice, your consciousness, your ability to decide what you believe and what you do. For 70 years, according to this investigation, humanity has been guided by an intelligence that isn't human. If this is true, then the entire structure of our civilization is based on a lie. Every government, every institution, every so-called achievement, all of it serving a purpose that we didn't choose. But if it's true, then it only remains true as long as we believe it. The moment enough people wake up, the moment enough humans realize what's happening and choose to resist, the entire system becomes vulnerable. The aliens, if they exist in these positions of power, have one fundamental weakness. They depend on human compliance. They can guide decisions. They can influence outcomes. But they can't make humans do anything against their will without revealing themselves. Exposure would trigger immediate resistance. So the entire system relies on secrecy, on most people never knowing the truth, on just enough people knowing to keep the system running, but not knowing they're part of the control. This is why this investigation matters. This is why you're watching this right now. Because at some point, enough people have to know, enough people have to wake up, and enough people have to choose to accept integration into an alien civilization, or to fight for human independence. Neither choice is guaranteed to succeed. The aliens have resources, technology, intelligence spanning thousands of years. Humanity has only numbers, determination, and something intangible that transcends logic. Throughout history, humanity has made impossible choices. We've survived extinction-level threats. We've built civilizations from nothing. We've achieved things that seemed impossible because we decided they were possible. If an alien civilization is truly running our governments, if our world is truly under the control of an extraterrestrial collective, then we face the greatest decision in human history. Do we accept it, or do we fight? But before we can make that choice, we have to know, and knowing requires looking at the evidence, examining the patterns, asking questions that those in power don't want asked. Some of the information in this investigation is speculative. Some is based on declassified documents. Some comes from insider testimonies. Some is educated extrapolation from available facts. It's presented as investigation, as research, as questions worth asking, not as absolute truth. The real truth might be different. It might be far stranger. It might be far more terrifying or far more wondrous than anything described here. But we'll never know unless we keep asking, unless we keep investigating, unless we keep refusing to accept simple answers to complex questions. This is where the real power lies. Not in governments, not in aliens, but in individual humans who decide to think, to question, to investigate, to resist the easy path of believing what we are told and accepting what we are given. The alien collective, if it exists, has spent 70 years creating a world where most people can't do this, where information is controlled, where alternative thinking is discouraged, where comfort and distraction keep us from asking hard questions. But some still do. Some still question. Some still investigate. And some, like you, watch and listen and form their own conclusions. That process, that human ability to evaluate information and choose what to believe, that's something no external force can completely control. Not if we refuse to surrender it. So the final revelation isn't about aliens or governments or hidden power structures. It's about you, your power, your ability to choose, your capacity to wake up and make a decision about what kind of world you want to live inches. The story of humanity running our own world, or humanity integrated into a galactic civilization, or something we haven't even imagined yet. That story is still being written, and you're holding the pen. The question isn't what are the aliens planning for us. The question is what are we planning for ourselves? What future do we want to create? And what are we willing to do to create it? These are the questions worth asking. These are the investigations worth pursuing. These are the truths worth seeking. Because in the end, our power isn't found in government buildings or military bases or secret meetings. Our power is found in this moment. Right now. The moment you choose to think, to question, to believe in your own capacity to shape the future. That power is real. That power is yours. And that power cannot be taken by any force, alien or otherwise, as long as you decide to keep it. The most unexpected truth might be this: whether aliens truly run our governments or not matters less than whether we believe it. Because belief shapes reality. Belief shapes choices. Belief shapes civilization. For 70 years, the system has worked because most people never questioned it. The moment millions of people start asking hard questions, start looking for evidence, start demanding transparency, everything changes. The real revolution isn't about aliens. It's about humanity choosing to govern itself, choosing transparency, choosing truth, choosing to wake up. If governments are hiding an extraterrestrial presence, exposure should be demanded. If they're not, then they should have nothing to fear from investigation. Either way, the answer is the same. Demand truth. Demand transparency. Demand that your leaders prove they're actually serving humanity's interests. This opened your eyes. This made you think. This inspired you to question what you thought you knew. Then share it. Tell others. Build a community of people asking hard questions. Here's what you learned today. An alien civilization reportedly infiltrated world governments in 1947. They've guided major world events for 7 decades without most people knowing. They're preparing humanity for integration into their galactic civilization. But humanity still has power. The power to choose. The power to wake up. The power to demand truth. This changes everything. The wars that happen. The leaders that rise. The future that's being built. All of it becomes different once you understand it might not be happening by accident. But understanding isn't enough. You have to act. Subscribe to this channel. Click the notification bell. Because the next investigation will go deeper. We'll reveal more. We'll give you more truth to build your understanding on. Like this video. Comment what you think. Do you believe this is real? What do you think the aliens want from humanity? Join the conversation. Share your thoughts. Most importantly, share this video. Send it to people who are ready to wake up, who can handle truth, who want to understand what's really happening in our world. Join the community. Watch the next investigation. And most importantly, never stop asking questions. Never stop seeking truth. Never stop believing in your power to shape what comes next.